Greetings, everyone. This is Christy from Optimal Wellness, Yoga, and More, and I'm back to share my second week of 30 Inks, 30 Days. Between you and me, I'm a little bit impressed that I made it this far so far. I am doing voiceover this week, just trying things a little differently, just getting to know my options and what fits me well. They are resurfacing our street this week. I'm trying to catch a quiet time and I'm hoping post-processing will mean you don't even notice. But if you hear some backup beepers or a little construction noise, my apologies. I just had to bite the bullet and have a go at it. So let's get to it. Day 8. We have the super saturated Colorverse Alpha-Ori. It's a bright orange in my Eco Clone from Lanbitou or Lanbitou that I ordered off of AliExpress. This is my first time ink syringe filling through the feed like this. It was kind of fun to do it with that clear feed. But look at my hands. They're mostly clean here. And not so clean here. And just wait until we get a little further. You'll see just how not clean they are. It was a little bit of a trick to fill the pen that way. Normally, if I'm using an ink syringe, I fill the converter, and you'll get a chance to see that later on. But here I am doing the transcription of the poem of the day from Nikita Gill's Wild Embers book. I am just loving this book. I'm not the hugest poetry fan, but I had a couple different friends recommend this book, and they were not wrong. I am just thoroughly enjoying it. The nib, this is the second clone that I have, so we haven't seen this particular pen yet. This nib is an extra fine. I could take it to some micro mesh. It could use a wee bit of smoothing, but overall, it was pretty good, especially, an extra fine is always going to give you a little more feedback. And here, I'm tangling, and I'm just doing what those in the tangle world call a monotangle. That means I just keep using one single Zentangle pattern. If you're curious, this one's tipple. There isn't much to it. You're just drawing circles, and I find it so meditative and really enjoy it. So after transcribing and tangling, I go back to my week's notebook and I am writing down my thoughts and feelings concerning this combo. And I want to remind you that the letter grade is for the combo of the ink with the pen. A plus is, of course, like, this is the best. I can't imagine anything better, and I'm not going to look for anything better. And then C is just your average pairing. It's serviceable, it's fine, nothing to get too excited about. Day 9, and we have Diamine Majestic Blue. This is one of those classic bright blues with the red sheen that pretty much every brand has created. It's going to be going into my Lamy All-Star in just kind of the silver color. I'm not sure of the official name. I actually really enjoyed this bright, pure blue color, which was kind of a surprise to myself. Filling the converter, and this is how I'm managing my ink for 30 Inks 30 Days. Just a very small fill here, putting it in the converter, and then I prime the feed by moving the piston of the converter up towards the feed end of the tube until the ink bubbles out of the top a little bit there. And then I go into the weeks and I do my little scribble swatch and note down that it's the Lamy All-Star and the ink that I'm using. On this lighter weight Tomoe River, I get that butter smooth flow that I adore that. where there's like almost no resistance. The pen and the ink just kind of float across the paper. That is what I love about fountain pens. So here I am doing the transcription, and again, this is on the heavier Tomoe River, and I do not get that nice soft feeling here. There is definitely some feedback, which I'm not a huge fan of. And then I'm tangling on, if I remember right, this is Canson drawing paper. I tested it to make sure that several different inks didn't feather on it before I went and cut it up. I wanted to just use what I had on hand, and these came in 9x12 sheets, so I just cut it down into 3x3 squares. And this time around, I'm kind of getting the hang of doing the shading with the paintbrush. I'm using a number 0 watercolor brush. I dip it in water and then dry it off a little bit on paper towel before bringing it to the Zentangle. Not my favorite Zentangle, but I can definitely see progress. Overall, it was a comfortable experience. The flow was a bit wet in this combo, so it made for a broader line than I tend to work with, but it gave me that nice flowing feeling. So overall, I gave it a B, but I'd have to be mindful of what my usage pattern would be if I were to use this combo again. Day 10, and we have Platinum Mix Free Earth Brown, and no, your eyes are not deceiving you. The color clinging to the sample vial is orange, as you can see from the swatch in the monthly spread in my Hobonichi weeks. The Mix Free line from Platinum are a bunch of inks that are meant to be mixed together to create your own colors. So that's where that name comes from. The ink went into a teal pen. Surprise, surprise. It's my Kaweco Sport with an extra fine nib. The color is Toyama Teal, I think. It's one of the special editions that came out within the last year sometime. I got it for my birthday this year from my wife. And I'm actually not upset about this ink and pen combo, in part because I used to love putting like a pumpkin orange, a teal, and an eggplant purple together. And now that I can really feel fall coming, I'm kind of jonesing on that color combo again. So this was actually quite fun. The transcription went as you would expect by now with an extra fine nib. On the heavier Tomoe River, it's a little feedbacky, but I love how my handwriting looks in this line weight. So overall, it was a fine experience, nothing super exciting. I did actually, not pull my hair out with this color combo, so that was good. And this is a good line width and stuff for in my journal and everything. So I gave this a B. It's definitely more than average. It's quite serviceable and enjoyable. My only real complaint is that I don't think this is an orange, or I mean, is a brown ink. I think this is an orange ink. Do you agree with me or do you not agree with me? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. I don't know. Am I nuts? So the Tangle, I'm sorry, I was not able to get a process video of, but here is the final result. It's another mono Tangle using the pattern Paradox. And I really feel like I harnessed the shading well here. This is one of my favorite Tangles so far this month, I think. And day 11, we have another tealy blue Diamine Twilight. It's quite dark. Some people call it a teal black. And depending on the pen, it can definitely read that way, especially like a wet fine line. It can read pretty close to like a blue-black, but it has just a hint of green to it. I really have loved this colors ever since I got the sample vial, so much so I haven't used it in a pen. And I don't know why. Diamine is so economical, and I can get a 30 ml bottle for what, like $8. So I don't know what's holding me back. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause is that it's awfully close to the Birmingham Penco Heron that we got this spring. So that's one of the reasons I haven't added it recently, but I've loved it since like 2016. So it's in my red Lamy Safari, and that is fitted with a medium nib. The transcription was probably one of the most pleasant on this heavier weight Tomoe River. There was very little feedback because it was a relatively wet writing experience with that broader nib than I typically use. I also find that this nib and pen in particular does a really good job of showing off shading. And I was uninspired for my tangle this day. I just drew some lines and went for it. Not my favorite, but again, it was good practice shading. So overall, I enjoyed the experience. I love this ink color. I still think I have it on my wish list to get a bottle, even though it's similar to the Heron. It just is a different experience writing. And I do like this nib in this pen for that shading, but I just have to be really aware of what I'm intending on using it for, because it's definitely too broad for my comment planner. But I gave this one a B+, one of the highest ratings so far this week. And day 12 brings us to the Herbin Larmes de Cassis, and it went into my Pilot Falcon with an extra soft nib. So this is a modern flex pen, if you're not familiar with it. I don't have extensive flex pen experience, but this has been my best modern flex experience to date, aside from a Spencerian one that I tested very briefly at the DC Pen Show. But that is so completely out of my price range that we'll leave it here. One thing I notice when I'm writing with the flex pen is I lose my angle to my handwriting. It becomes very upright and also much more like loopy girly and not as angular as my natural handwriting. If you are more experienced with flex writing and you have some tips or video recommendations for working on writing with the flex, please leave a comment, because I need some help. I love the line with variation, but I don't love my handwriting in that. This tangle was fun, but very, very detailed, and in retrospect, I probably made all the elements awfully small. This one took almost an entire hour, so how I created that time, I'm not quite sure, especially going back in and doing some shading. I found that I wasn't picking up quite enough ink, so I went in and went over the edges of the kind of seed shapes again. I'm sorry, I don't remember what this tangle is called. It was a new to me one, so I was just playing, and then I got tired of trying to fill the tile, so I stopped partway and added the other things. You can see that this ink really did not maintain the line definition once I added the water, so if it hadn't taken me so long, I'd go back in and go over the lines of the seeds just to bring back a little bit more definition. And I may still do that at a later date, but not in the midst of this 30 inks, 30 days. I love the ink. The flex is fine. I just need to learn more about how to utilize it and keep some of my natural handwriting look with it, or to develop a flex pen handwriting style. But I would like some angularness to come back. The ink, again, I love it. It'd be nice if it had just a little bit more water resistance, but I gave this combo an A minus. Day 13, we stay in this purple magenta color with Atramentis, Dianthus. This is one of their scented inks, though I don't know if it's because my sample is relatively old. The scent was not terribly strong. But just do be aware, if you like this color, if you are scent sensitive, this may not be the choice for you. I didn't think I was going to care for this ink. It seemed a little too bright and pure and saturated for me, but I ended up being kind of pleasantly surprised. It is in my violet or purple Lamy Safari with a carbon black fine nib, and I really liked the experience of writing on this lighter weight Tomoe River in the weeks. The flow was relatively wet with this combo, and so even though it's a finer nib, it still had that buttery smooth feel to it. Now, I decided to go back to my roots, and this is one of my favorite Zentangles to do. It's called Dex. And I love it because you can bring so much dimension to it with all the shading opportunities. And this ink did not disappoint on the shading. It maintained line definition while also still lifting plenty of color that I could get darker and lighter shading. And the nib size is the right size for me. So the transcription was good, as you would expect, a little feedbacky on this harder Tomoe River. I suspect if I wrote on a Rhodia, I wouldn't have any feedback. I would probably have a nice, smooth experience. Overall, I enjoyed this combination. I was pleasantly surprised in an ink pen, or in a pen, the ink was not quite so raw in your face, and I liked it. So I gave the experience a B plus. I probably wouldn't buy it though, because it's pretty similar to my Yamabudo from Irashizuku. Day 14, and we wrap up the week with iPaper Nantou Tree Frog. This was another one of the inks that I swatched a couple videos back from a ink swap with a Discord pen friend. And this is a super in-your-face fluorescent green ink. And I hadn't used this Jinhao 86, or 82 rather, excuse me. And I ended up needing to open the tines up a little bit. They were way too tight. So here you can see me using a brass shim to kind of floss the tines and open them up. I'm using the lighter weight of my two shims here to get started. And you can see I'm not having a terribly easy time getting that shim in there. But I do eventually get it opened enough. It may use a little more help, but I get it serviceable enough to continue. So, like I said, this is my Jinhao 82, and the nib on this one is a Fude nib. So I was excited that this ink got paired with a Fude, so I can see what it looks like to lay it down a little more like a highlighter. Now, this isn't as chunky of a Fude nib as we saw last week in my X450 with the Diamine Oxblood, but this is more representative of what I'd likely be using in my common planner. Now, as you can see, this ink is not really legible for regular handwriting. But for tangling, it actually worked quite well. I'm sure this paper is like more absorbent, so I think that might have helped here. And the Fude nib is fantastic for coloring in, and that's why I chose this particular Zentangle. It's called Hollybow. But it doesn't shade very well. I couldn't really pick up much color, although that could possibly be just because how light the color is when we're starting out. But again, you totally can't read my notes here. It's just way too light. But it would be serviceable as a highlighter. So I gave it a C. It works, but it has a very specific purpose. So here we go. Here is all of this week's swatches and a quick look at the notes on each of them. And we have a wrap. I have completed my second week of 30 inks, 30 days. Let me know if you have a favorite Zentangle, if you have a favorite ink and pen pairing from what you saw. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, as I'm new here, please help spread the word, like, comment, subscribe to help my videos get seen. I really appreciate it. And until next time, be safe and be well. Aho.